Hey everybody, Tyree here with Before I Forget, along with Kevin. Say hey, Kevin.
Hey, everybody.
Some damn John Frusciante today, boy. What you know about that?
Not much. I don't like his music.
Fuck you then. Hey, everybody, here we are. If you're looking at the show today, you can actually see my face, courtesy of Kevin's enormous searchlight that he gave me.
I like how you said enormous and then paused.
Well, I was grabbing it. No
Yeah.
pun intended.
Yeah.
Giving it a grab
This is going places, this conversation is.
already. Yeah. So hey,
Off to a
this
start.
month. This month is mental health month. So, uh, if you have issues, seek help. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, that was really good. We should hire you to make commercials. If you guys want to know how well Tyree and I do at commercials, go back and listen to the last thing posted. It's not on YouTube, it's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We are the best. But like Tyree was saying, May is mental health month, mental health awareness. And the whole idea of it, I'm eating Girl Scout cookies, is it's like the 1 month out of the year where we can acknowledge mental health and the issues surrounding it. And personally, I think the biggest issue surrounding it is the stigma of mental health, and especially amongst men. uh you know we have like the highest suicide rates, and we're the least likely to go seek help. It's a big thing. um you know More often than not, men, guys, even teenage boys will just choose to suffer through the silence and deal with it. And in too many cases, it turns into bad news bears. It doesn't really work out for the person. So, and it's not to say that women don't go through the same thing, but they obviously do. And this isn't just focused at men specifically, but um, if you are a human on this planet, you will likely at some point in your life suffer from mental health issues. If and when that happens, it's okay to seek help. Um, that's one thing that we kind of wanted to portray on the show. Is that like everybody goes through hard times, everybody needs help, and you got to reach out. You got to have that person or those people in your life to reach out to. And if you don't have that person or those people, dial 988. They've simplified the suicide hotline number. It's not necessarily for suicides, like specifically. If you need help, if you need to reach out, if you need to talk to somebody, 988. It's that simple. It's like you 911, but 988. Think of it as like nine and then infinity, infinity, because you're going to live forever or something. I don't know.
Word. You're right about that shit, man. Like, we on this show talk about mental health constantly because it's one of the pillars of this show. We're always going to check in with each other. Um, and like Kevin said, it's not just a male thing; it's an everybody thing. It's not just a military thing. It's for anyone listening who needs any help. Um, Particularly as a black man, I feel like I'm screaming into the microphone. As a black man, no, it's a black man. They like black families for the most part um, don't think you should go see a therapist or something like that. It's like don't tell them your business. Like deal with it on your own. Sometimes you can't, man. And ain't nothing wrong with reaching out and talking to somebody. So go mental health. Word for shizzle.
Yeah,
What kind of cookies are those? Are they the Samoans?
man, your Girl Scout cookies,
Fucking right, I do.
Samoans, fresh out of the refrigerator.
Mm.
It's falling all over my notebook. I don't even like coconut, man, but like these are the shit.
Yeah, those are the only coconut. Well, that and like an almond joy. Those
Yeah,
are good.
those are like boring, but they're good. Weird.
Delicious, delicious. So, let's get into some news stuff. There are several different army posts that now have different names.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about that, Kevin? The changing of these names of these posts, because a lot of them in the prior history were named after Confederate folk, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that was like a big part of it. So, um, we, so personally, well, hang on, let's get into what was actually changed. Okay, so there's
Mm,
nine recommendations. All right, so Fort Benning, Georgia, home of the infantry, home of the armor, is going to be changed to Fort Moore, named after Hal Moore. If you've seen, uh, uh,
we were soldiers.
yeah, We Were Soldiers. I was about to say Band of Brothers. I'm like, nope, that's not the right one. If you've seen We Were Soldiers, then you've heard Hal Moore's story in Vietnam. Um, the guy's been all over the place. He served 32 years in the Army, Lieutenant General Hal Moore, and so he had a lot to do with Fort Benning, um, especially when on that deployment to Vietnam. They deployed out of Benning. Fort Bragg, they're renaming to Fort Liberty. Um,
That's a shit name. I'm gonna put that out there right now. I'm gonna judge the names as we go along with them.
yeah,
Fort Liberty is like super generic. It's like Space Force. What are they? Guardians. What? Generic. Give me something cool.
yeah,
Fucking
some
Fort
pizzazz.
Mayhem. Fort. Fuck yeah. I don't know.
Fort, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
To backtrack to Fort Benning, so it was originally named after Brigadier General Henry Benning, and he was a Georgia lawyer, politician, judge, and supporter of slavery. This is like all I'm reading this on time.com if anybody wants to go read this.
Mm.
It was established as Camp Benning in 1918, home of the infantry, and it became a fort upgraded to a fort 4 years later. So
Mm.
1918. So yeah, I think Civil War ended in 1865. So you're talking, I don't know, 50-ish years. I can't math, but about 50 years later, it's named after Brigadier General Henry Benning. Yeah, so Fort
Yeah.
Bragg was originally named after General Braxton Bragg, who served in the Second Seminole War, the Mexican American War, and the Civil War. He is said to be among the worst Confederate generals because he waged war plottingly with frontal assaults and a lack of follow through that turned battlefield successes into post battle disappointments. So I guess he was, on all accounts, a shitty battlefield commander. And so
He
it's
was a
being,
bro.
yeah. Um, and so it's being renamed to Fort Liberty and it says to honor the value of liberty. The Pentagon says, like, come on, man, that's weak. You can, man, like considering 82nd is based out of Fort Bragg, and Special Operations Command is well, I think SOCOM's actually based out of Tampa, but you got a lot of Special Operations guys that run out of Bragg. So there's a ton of amazing people throughout that post's history that it could have been named after, but nope, they get fucking Liberty,
Mm.
which is cool.
Awesome.
It says the Pentagon says our army was founded to achieve the ideal of liberty. In the American Revolution, patriots fought for the liberty to direct their lives, pursue their happiness, and determine their futures through representative democracy. So what I don't like about that though is that like Fort Bragg wasn't necessarily a part of the American Revolution. If you want to rename one of those way older bases to Liberty, or maybe a naval ship like the USS Constitution, which don't change the name, it's badass as it is. But
Mm.
we got Fort Gordon in Georgia. It was named after Lieutenant General John Brown Gordon. He was a Confederate leader under Robert E. Lee, and it was Camp Gordon in 1917, then became Fort Gordon in 1956. So established during World War One, and then became a fort right after or in the middle of the Korean War. Generally acknowledged as the oh wait, hang on a second. It is the home of the Army Signal Corps and the service's Cyber Center of Excellence. It goes on to say, generally acknowledged as the head of the Ku Klux Klan in Georgia, he was elected to the U.S. Senate in 1872. This is about Lieutenant General John Brown Gordon. He denied the charge that he was a member of the Klan, but you know how politicians are.
Yeah, you can always just take the robe off.
Yeah. So Fort Gordon is being renamed to Fort Eisenhower after Dwight D. Eisenhower.
I can get along with that one. That one's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Eisenhower was a bitchin' leader. He was out there doing it, World War II and whatnot. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of good things, a lot of change in the communities as he was coming up. So I think that one's cool. That one's a bitchin' name.
Yeah, well, it goes on to say, as General Eisenhower led the Allied forces to victory in World War II, so he was the supreme Allied commander. He's the a 5-star. Returning to the U.S. as a war hero, he was president of Columbia University and supreme commander of NATO, which is a pretty rad name. Before
No,
being elected president of the U.S. in 1952 and in 1956, 2 terms. Eisenhower ended the Korean War in 1953 and opened diplomatic negotiations with Cold War rival the Soviet Union. So he got the ball rolling in a lot of those areas, and then he went on to do some other cool shit. Eisenhower signed civil rights legislation in 1957 and 1960, and ordered federal troops to enforce school desegregation in Little Rock, Arkansas, in 1957.
hmm.
So Time magazine voted him Man of the Year in 1944 and in 1959.
Take that with a grain of salt. Wasn't Hitler the man of the year also once?
I mean, true. It also says he later became the first president to be limited by the Constitution's 22nd Amendment of 2 terms. In his
Oh,
farewell address in January 61, he famously warned of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. There's a little dash of irony. Fort A.P. Hill is over there in Virginia, and it was named after Lieutenant General A.P. Hill. I can't remember what AP stands for. Something Powers. Ambrose Powers Hill, I think.
Austin Powers. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, right. The Army created installation 6 months before the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in 1941. It's a training and maneuver center focused on providing realistic joint and combined arms training. So it was renamed to Fort Walker, and this one's really interesting because that I'm aware of, this is the only base that's named after someone who was not military. Fort Walker would honor Dr. Mary Walker. By the start of the Civil War, the 28-year-old Walker had already emerged as a skilled surgeon and strong abolitionist and advocate of women's rights and equality. So that's pretty rad.
Yeah. You women, y'all got you one.
Yeah,
That was a cool one. Fort
yeah,
Walker.
yeah. I can get behind that.
Mhm.
It goes on to say, like, she did some stuff in 1862. 2 years later, she was arrested by the Confederates and imprisoned for 4 months after she stayed behind enemy lines to treat the wounded. In November 65, she received the Medal of Honor.
Hell yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
Oh, you know what? I read about that. There was yeah, that's pretty fucking cool.
yeah,
She was a POW technically.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And
So that's a pretty rad story.
yeah. So that's a cool name. I can get behind that. Fort
Yeah,
Walker. I didn't even
Fort
know the name of that place initially. That's new shit to me.
AP Hill.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not one of those that you hear often, right? But
Nah. Shout
Fort
out to
Hood.
y'all over there if you listening. AP. I mean Fort Walker. Raka raka.
I don't even know what the fuck that was. Um,
If I had a horn. Pew, 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 pew.
yeah. So Fort Hood. Um, uh, Fort Hood's a weird place. So Fort Hood, Texas honors native Kentuckian General John Bell Hood. It was started as Camp Hood in 1942, becoming a fort in 1950. Hood himself was wounded at Gettysburg, losing the use of his left arm. Despite that, he led his troops in a massive assault during the Battle of Chickamauga, suffering wounds that led to the loss of his right leg, double amputee.
Hmm.
It is being renamed, or has been renamed officially, to Fort Cavazos, honoring the General Richard Cavazos, who was a Texan and the first Hispanic American to pin on 4 stars. So that's pretty rad. But like we talked about earlier today on the phone, it's a little on the nose considering, everything with Texas and Fort Hood specifically, and Vanessa Guillen and all the other bullshit that just seems to happen at Fort Hood. So it's just a little, to me, that one's a little like, I don't know.
Yeah. We should call it Fort. Forget about it. Let's start over. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
Fort, burn it down and build from the ashes, because
Mhm.
that place is a train wreck.
I prayed to everything holy that I didn't get sent to Hood when I was leaving from Germany when I was supposed to leave the first time. I was supposed to go to fucking Carson, which would have been bitching, but oh boy, the thought of going to Hood, ugh, oh,
Yeah.
oh my,
So, um, these cookies are good, man.
they,
So he did some pretty cool stuff though. So he in the Korean War he led a company of Puerto Rican soldiers and earned the Distinguished Service Cross, which is one below the Medal of Honor.
hmm,
After he personally evacuated his wounded men against an enemy onslaught, he did this 5 times while injured. It's pretty rad. Um, he went to Vietnam and commanded an infantry battalion as a lieutenant colonel. In 1967, he was once again awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for rallying his men through an ambush, organizing a counterattack, and leading several maneuvers to repulse and destroy extensive enemy defenses.
hmm,
So, 2 Distinguished Service Crosses, 2 Legions of Merit, Silver Star, 5 Bronze Stars, Purple Heart, and many other medals and awards. So he did some stuff. So, I mean, at least it's honoring somebody who actually did some stuff, because and this is a little off subject, but I'm pretty against naming things or voting for people specifically because of the race or gender they happen to be. Um, that's just it. You know, if you're going to vote for somebody for a public office where they are the representative of the people's voice, you would think what they look like, or if they're a male or a female, wouldn't matter. Their politics would probably matter more in that situation. But that's all I'm going to say on that particular subject for
hmm.
now.
You know me, man. I'm voting for everybody black.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Same.
Yeah, there you go. Nah, but for real, you should probably really listen to the people that you vote for. Um, we have a history of voting for people who say rad shit and do really crap. I ain't even gonna go. I'm not even gonna go there. I ain't gonna slide down into that. Um, think about who you vote for before you vote.
Yeah, I like how you said rad shit. Like but yeah, no, like look at their politics. It
Yeah,
doesn't. It doesn't. So listen, people, folks, followers, people, lovers of the show, fans, if we have those.
both of y'all.
Um, all 3 of y'all.
Hmm.
Here's the thing. It First of all, we're not a two-party um nation, right? As far as politics is concerned, we're not a two-party. We have this idea that we are either Republican or Democrat, and during, say, a presidential election, to vote anything other than Republican or Democrat um, is a vote against the um, opposition. But we actually, our political system is set up to allow for multiple political parties representing everybody, because I don't identify as Republican or Democrat. And I know plenty of people that don't. I know plenty of people that identify as constitutionalists or libertarians. Um, so don't become a diehard left or right. Become a diehard truth seeker. Become a diehard. I'm going to vote for the person that has the people's best interest in mind. Um, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah.
So Fort Lee, Virginia was named after General Robert E. Lee, the
Hmm.
South's commanding officer by the Civil War's end. So he was like the head honcho. The War Department created Camp Lee within weeks of declaring war on Germany in 1917, and then was promoted to Fort Lee in 1950. Um,
Well, that's
so
really not that long ago. Like,
it, yeah.
fuck.
Well, I mean, you think it was established in 1917, so that's 106 years ago.
Yeah, but
I mean, the
I mean, yeah, it's
automobile was
not.
around.
Yeah, that's nothing. Like people were way back then. Like, yeah, we beat y'all, but I like the cut of that. Let's name a fort after him, even though we kicked his ass up and down the whole country side for
Yeah,
the most part. For the
right,
most part.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it is a little interesting. But they're going to rename it to Fort Greg Adams, Greg Dash Adams, and that would honor uh, Lieutenant General Arthur Gregg and Lieutenant Colonel Charity Adams. Um, so that's cool. Gregg enlisted in 1945 after his parents signed waivers that allowed him to enlist in the army at age 17. A black man, he was assigned to a unit in Germany as a medical laboratory technician, but was later told no job was available. He was ultimately assigned as supply clerk in Quartermaster Truck Company, which set him on a path to become one of the most decorated black officers of the era. So he went out there and did some badass shit. He helped rebuild Europe after World War II um, as a supplied logistician. So that's pretty rad. Later, he ran a supply depot in Japan, commanded a supply and support battalion in Vietnam, and served in several assignments in Germany throughout the Cold War, including his leadership of the Army and Air Force exchange system. So during that time frame, if you got the goods, if your PX had shit, if they had Red Bull stocked and fucking Marlboro Red stocked, fucking Arthur Gregg had your back.
Copenhagen since 1822.
Yeah. Shout out to Stamp Dog.
Yeah,
uh so he did some pretty cool stuff, and we'll see what Lieutenant Colonel Charity Adams did. During World War II, Adams was selected to command the first unit of black women to serve overseas, which was tasked with delivering mail to and from almost 7 million soldiers fighting in Europe. Adams, or her unit, handled an estimated 65,000 letters a day. For fuck's sake, that's a lot. That's insane. That's crazy. And close to 2 million pieces of mail each month. Ooh.
that's pretty critical stuff right there, man. Like, imagine if you never got any mail while you were deployed.
Well, and so people understand what we're talking about here. So like there was a period when we were in Iraq that they refused. We couldn't get vehicles to come up the main supply route, the MSR from Anaconda to Brassfield, because IEDs were so prevalent, and so it was a dangerous route. And like that was our water supply, that was our food, that was our mail, outgoing and incoming. That was all that stuff. And when you're over there, this is pre-email, pre-Snapchat. Well, email existed, but like we didn't really have access. Getting a letter, a handwritten letter from somebody back home, like that meant a lot. You know what I mean? Because somebody actually took the time and effort to write a fucking letter and mail it to you. Um, yeah, that meant a lot. It's a lot more than getting a text from your bestie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It means that people actually gave a shit. And I'll tell you what, man, I handed out my fucking APOAE address to quite a few folks, and not everybody wrote.
Mm.
It says a lot about some of those people.
Um, I didn't hand it out to many people. I gave it to mom, but I think mom gave it to folks. I got a lot of mail, but I was buying a lot of shit too because I'm stupid. So there.
Yeah, Tyree and I went through a buying frenzy. I would like to say that I was feeding off of Tyree, but
Well, I thought I was gonna die, so at least I wanted to have some good headphones at some point. Like, fuck,
bro,
wanted a nice CD player.
this is okay. So this is where we were with purchasing. Um, I I ordered a belt. Do you remember that belt? It was a brown leather belt. It was the nicest belt that I've ever owned, and
Hmm.
it was called on the website the perfect jean belt. I still have that fucking belt.
I do too. I got one as well.
Mm-hmm.
It is an awesome belt.
It's an awesome belt. I haven't worn it in a long time though.
I bought a fedora
I
for
remember
that
that.
shit, and some Pumas. I call them my pad shoes because I don't want to wear boots constantly because of fucking why.
Yeah.
What else? What other dumb shit that I buy?
Bunch of t-shirts with a person on it that we had no business wearing.
Yeah, that's true. Tons of them.
Yeah.
Uh, books are good. The Big Book of Racism. I bought that.
Yeah,
You,
yeah, yeah.
shout out to that. So
Yeah,
it's not all bad.
it's a
Didn't you
fun
buy
book.
some instruments?
I did. I bought oh my God. I bought a Dobro resonator guitar. And for those that don't know what that is, it's a guitar that is so typically resonator guitars back in the day before amplification was either in existence or affordable, they would take guitars apart and put like aluminum plates inside of it, like pie plates. And when you would strum it, those would resonate and then amplify the sound. And I found this one in probably musician's friend or something, and the whole thing was aluminum or nickel plated, the whole guitar, and it was beautiful. It was amazing, and it shipped to me broken.
Mm, I remember that shit. It was a beautiful fucking guitar. I was heartbroken for you because I wanted to hear it.
Yeah,
I,
I still kind of played it, but like you had to like the neck snapped on it.
mm. Dude,
But
what happened to that? Was it just tossed?
yeah,
Mm. Shout
yeah.
out to musician's friend or wherever you got that from.
Um, on back on her though.
Yeah.
Um, Gender discrimination limited her promotion to lieutenant colonel, the highest rank attainable by any woman during the war. But her effectiveness was made clear when it took 3 units of men to replace her battalion after they disbanded. Like that means a lot. So, getting a base named after those two folks, like I'm down with it.
Hmm. That's a good one.
I
Thumbs up.
like the name of this one, and uh I almost wish it went to a cooler base, but um Fort Pickett in Virginia honored Major General George Pickett, who's a Virginia native. He led the 1863 charge at Gettysburg, the high water mark of the Confederacy. The charge resulted in a rebel bloodbath, and he fled to Canada for a year after the war ended, fearing execution as a traitor.
Mm.
Uh, then it goes on to say that Camp Pickett was dedicated on July 3rd, 1942. So 79 years to the day and hour of Pickett's charge in Gettysburg. That's wild. Like they waited to the day and hour of his charge to name a base after him.
And then he
Of
scaled the whole country and hid in Canada.
Yeah. And then
What?
it was promoted to a fort in 1974. So at the end of the Vietnam War, which to put that into perspective, that's 7 or 6 years, but I'm sorry, 8 years before I was born.
Right.
But it's a Virginia Army National Guard installation, and it is being named or renamed Fort Barefoot. I'm sorry, Barfoot, after Technical Sergeant Van T. Barfoot. On Goes on to say May 23rd, 1944, Barfoot and his unit were assaulting entrenched German forces in northern Italy when they came under attack from machine gun positions on the foothills of the Alps. Barfoot moved out alone, heading for the enemy flank. Crawling to the edge of the first machine gun emplacement, he threw a grenade that killed 2 and wounded 3 of the crew, disabling the position. Securing the 3 prisoners, Barfoot advanced on a second machine gun nest, which he attacked with Tommy gun fire, killing 2 more enemy soldiers and taking another 3 prisoners. Continuing his solitary assault, Barfoot encountered a third machine gun emplacement and compelled the crew to surrender. Compelled the crew to, hey, come on, guys. Look what I just did.
Yeah.
Do you want to be next?
We can keep going.
Yeah, fuck
Got
around and
more
find out.
bullets. I got more bullets. I can get more bullets.
He was probably bluffing too. He's like, I got more. I don't
Yeah.
have more. I don't have more. Please give up. He ultimately took up 17 prisoners and while consolidating the newly won position. So Later in the afternoon, Germans counterattacked. Barfoot led a small squad and successfully defending the ground gained. He earned the Medal of Honor for his actions and served for a total of 34 years, including tours in Korea and Vietnam.
Mm.
So that dude served World War II, Korea, Vietnam. Wild.
It's a lot of fucking fighting, man. That's a
Yeah.
lot of war for one life.
Yeah.
A lot of war.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, man. That's a good name. I'll give that's thumbs up.
Yeah.
Barfoot, right?
Yeah.
Or
Barfoot. Barfoot.
okay.
So then we got Fort Polk, Louisiana. And that honors Lieutenant General Leonidas Polk, an Episcopal bishop born in North Carolina. Established in 1941, the post is now home of the Army's Joint Readiness Training Center. And I think that most folks in the Army would agree they have a hate relationship with Fort Polk. My dad went to basic training there in the 60s,
Hmm.
back in the day.
I've never been.
Yeah, I never got to go.
Yeah.
Shucks, damn.
Shite.
Maybe next time I enlist. Uh Polk fought bitterly during the Civil War, was immediate supervisor Braxton Bragg. Before being killed in action in 1864 during the Atlanta campaign, Polk committed one of the biggest blunders of the war. He sent troops to occupy Columbus, Kentucky, which led the Kentucky legislature to appeal to Washington for help, ending the state's brief try at neutrality.
This guy.
Yeah. So they're going to rename it after Sergeant William Henry Johnson. In the pre-dawn hours of May 4th, 14th, 1918, bro, that's in 2 days. 105 years ago. Huh. During World War I, Johnson was inside a trench in France's Argonne forest with a fellow black soldier when a German raiding party suddenly attacked his position. Quote, facing a fierce enemy, wounded and without support, Johnson could have surrendered but chose to fight. End quote. Sounding the alarm before single-handedly facing the enemy, Johnson threw grenades until his supply was exhausted. When he ran out of grenades, Johnson fired his rifle until he spent his ammunition. When he ran out of bullets, Johnson charged the enemy, swinging his rifle as a club. And when he observed two Germans about to carry his wounded comrade away for interrogation, Johnson abandoned his rifle and instead drew his bolo knife, fighting off the raiders as close quarters and pushing them back from the position. Ultimately, Johnson single-handedly engaged approximately 24 men that night, killing at least 4. Few returned to their lines unscathed. Despite being outnumbered by a factor of 20 and sustaining 21 separate wounds in hand-to-hand combat, he had saved his comrade, sounded the alarm, and secured his unit's safety and position. Johnson became the United States' first hero of the Great War.
Fuck.
And that made my face feel funny.
That's a good one, man.
Yeah. And you'll be surprised to know this, but I'm actually related to that guy.
Incredible.
I'm
Small.
not. I'm
Shot all
not.
the bullets, tossed all the grenades. Now he's just out there clubbing people with the fucking, it got to be an M1 Garant back then,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's fucking cracking heads, sees homie getting pulled off, pulls out the knife, goes OJ, gets those, gets his friend back, is wounded to shit. He's bleeding all over the place, but he's still doing stuff. That's awesome. You never know what you can do until you're in the shit, right?
Yeah, man. Like that's a big thing. That's wild. And I am a little surprised to see that I'm not reading that he was awarded the Medal of Honor.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you
That's
get? Like
it
having
doesn't it doesn't say, but black soldier in World War One
there you go.
wasn't much of a thing. But
He's got
uh
a post named after him now.
yeah. Down in Louisiana. So um dang, that's that
Whack. Give him the
became
damn fucking award already.
became the United States first hero of the Great War. That's a pretty cool title though, man.
The first hero.
Yeah. First hero of the Great War. So the war to end all wars, fucking World War One. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Move on to Fort Rucker, Alabama. It honors the Tennessee native Colonel Edmund Rucker, who was often called General but never attained the rank. He was known as General after becoming a leading Birmingham, Alabama industrialist after the Civil War. Known today as the home of the Army Aviation, Fort Rucker was originally the Ozark Triangular Division before being renamed Camp Rucker in 1942 and then became Fort Rucker in 1955. And it's being renamed to Fort Novosel, Novosel, would honor Chief Warrant Officer 4, Michael J. Novosel Sr., joined the Army Air Corps at the age of 19 in 1941. For those that don't know, the Army Air Corps is the predecessor to the United States Air Force. Once upon a time, the Air Corps belonged to the United States Army. 10 months before, so he joined at 19, 10 months before the attack on Pearl Harbor. During the war, he rose to the rank of captain at the age of 23, flying B-29 Super Fortress bombers. And then assigned to Vietnam as a dust-off pilot, he flew helicopters evacuating combat zone casualties, a dangerous mission in which approximately one-third of all medevac pilots became casualties themselves. In Novosel's 2 tours in Vietnam, he flew 2,543 extraction missions, rescuing over 5,500 seriously wounded soldiers. He earned the Medal of Honor for heroics on October 2nd, 1969, when at the age of 47, Novosel saved 29 men from certain death.
Mm.
You can get behind that.
Yeah, I feel it.
And it applies to, because Fort Rucker, home of the aviation, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
So those are the facts, right? So those are the bases that are being either changed, have changed, or up for change, and the names that they're changing them to. So you asked, what do I think about that? This is going to be an unpopular opinion, I think, but I don't fucking care. Here's the thing: I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, in 2001, where I attended infantry one station unit training, infantry OSA, and to me, Fort Benning has always been the home of the infantry. And in my mind, it will always be the home of the infantry, regardless of what it's called. But they're changing the names of these places to honor people that actually matter, right? It would be one thing minus fucking Fort Liberty. It's fucking dumb. It would be one thing if they were just changing it to some other fucking, you know, highest bidder, right? Hey, you donate X amount of dollars to this campaign, we'll give you an army base after you. That would be one thing.
You mean
Now,
you don't want Fort Bill Gates?
yeah, right. Yeah, no, I don't want Fort fucking Bill Gates.
Mm.
Um, and here's the other thing, right? Like I, up until reading most of these just now, had no idea who these bases were named after. Not a clue. Most people that I've spoken with have no idea who these bases were named after. Not a clue. Yet you'll find people all over the place bent out of shape because they're changing the name of these places. It'll always be Bragg. It'll always be Benning. Why? Why are we so clung to a name? And I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion. I'll probably catch some fucking hate from that, but um, Hal Moore was a great dude. He did some cool shit.
And,
Um,
and his wife.
yeah, right. No, exactly. Like all of these people that we read about just now all did some pretty amazing fucking things. There wasn't one of them where I was like, it's kind of weak.
Hmm.
The only one that sucks is Fort fucking Liberty.
Yeah.
And I hear people unanimously, I hear people like, I don't even have to like ask them, like, would you consider this name? I hear people all the time being like, why didn't they go with fucking Fort Benavides?
Mm. Anything. Oh, that would have been fucking money.
Right? And like you said earlier today, like how can you get mad at something like that? Like name all the bases after, Medal of Honor recipients.
Mm.
Um, or all of these were great examples of people that did amazing things. Um, and that's
Which,
one side of it.
yeah.
That's one side of the coin. Now the other side of the coin, if you'll notice, there's a lot of underappreciated um, black folk that served who are getting these bases named after them. So you might be inclined to think that maybe it's a PR stunt
Pandering.
to pandering. Exactly. You might think that they might be pandering for votes. Because at the beginning of this, it talks about how they came about the idea to change all these bases, and it says, well, we talked to a lot of people in the communities and we asked them what their opinions were. And this is based off of that information. They were called the Naming Commission, which was established by Congress in 2021 um, during the National Defense Authorization Act. And they went out and spoke to people. Suggested a list of names for the military installations that included women and Black Americans for the first time rather than white men. And and to me it seems like it's pandering to people. Do the names need to be changed from Confederate generals? I don't understand why they were named after them in the first fucking place.
Exactly.
60 years after the fucking loss of the Civil War, like, okay, we're gonna honor these people who by technically, and this is regardless of people your belief um on why the Civil War happened. But technically, it would have been considered an act of treason, along the same lines as when we rebelled against the crown in the late 1700s and the American Revolution kicked off. Had we lost that war, Washington and all of those folks would have been tried. All of our founding fathers would have been tried for treason and hung. So it's a weird thing. Now, so I say all that to say, did they need to be changed? Probably. Should they have ever been named after those people in the first place? Absolutely not. Did they pick some pretty good people? Yes, they did. Does Fort Liberty suck balls? 1000%.
Right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
I personally, Fort Benning is gonna be Fort Benning for me, only because I went there. That's my time. It was back then. It's over now. It's something else. It's just the way times go. I suppose in the background rumbles with all the old people, they're gonna always call it Fort Benning until they die out. And we spoke about that too. It's just gonna be that way until those folks just fade away into the background, and the army, and we move along, we adapt and overcome and grow and change into something different. And you can be mad about it if you want, but for more, there you go.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I agree, man. Like, I'm always going to say that I went to base training at Fort Benning because that's where I went.
Mhm.
Um, but do I think it's rad that it's going to be named after Hal Moore? Yeah, that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Um, honestly, the only one that I have any complaints about is fucking Liberty. It's just it's just dumb.
Booty.
Yeah.
Booty cheeks.
I don't even know why that is a like what why saying something is booty is bad because booties are great. Have you ever had one like smother your anyways? So so
Yeah.
uh
Oh man.
anyway, but so calls to rename military bases and ships um and other military assets intensified in 2020 in the wake of the murder of George Floyd in the hands of police in Minneapolis and the ensuing national reckoning on racial injustice. So again, in Time magazine or time.com like flat out says it's in the face of the reckoning of racial injustice in the United States. And to me that just screams pandering. We're pandering to one side. And that's I've already said my piece, but like it's just right idea, wrong reason.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So let's move on to some other shite.
Yeah, we
We
talked about that for way too long, I think.
Man, we had to get it out.
I feel like most people are not watching by now. If you are watching still or listening still, um fucking thanks.
Right on.
Amen.
So let's talk about that. We spoke about the Marine that choked the guy out in the subway in New York.
Yeah.
So, my understanding of what happened, I'm not going to read it because I'm tired of reading about people getting choked out in fucked up ways. But um, this guy was a homeless or poor person, black guy, danced on the subway for money. Um, was annoying folks, started screaming for money, demanding money, saying I'm starving, I don't care if I die, I need money. And I guess one person got a little too annoyed and decided, hey, I'll take care of this and goes and he puts this guy in a fucking chokehold for way too long.
Two
And
minutes, 2 minutes and 55 seconds.
that was how long they say.
Yeah. So I'm on the BBC site. Um, so yeah.
Wow, I was way off of my times earlier. Holy shit. But either way, me and Kevin, we understand. I know a little bit of fucking grappling, some little shit to take care of business if I need to as a cop. That was something that we had to learn, something to control somebody's upper body. I know that if you put that carotid hole on someone for a certain amount period of time, they're going to black out, and if you continue to hold, they're going to probably die. Um, at what point do you say this was a person defending himself against somebody who wasn't vicious, dangerous, or anything? But anyway, at what point do you let go and say, all right, we're just going to hold him here until the cops come and then we'll let him go? What made this fucking guy decide that he was going to be the one that took it to this level and it was okay for it? Like he's just now getting charged with that. That was days ago. That this wasn't like today. This was a while ago, and he's
Yeah.
just not getting charged. To me, that's fucked up. Y'all need to figure out this whole charge him or not charge him shit from the jump. And
Well,
if it's something like that, like that's homicide. That's something that needs to be investigated. And come on now. I
so
mean,
it happened May 1st, so almost 2 weeks ago, and I think he was charged yesterday or today. Um, so what's interesting about and you just said like make up your mind about when you're going to charge. Uh, there was video footage of the altercation that was recorded by a freelance journalist, and that video surfaced, and then there were people in an uproar, and then they made the arrest. Then they decided to charge him.
mm,
Um, but he goes on to say that the video captured by the freelance journalist shows. So his name is so the Marine, right? His name was Daniel Penny, 24 years old, and he killed 30-year-old Jordan Neely. 30-year-old Jordan Neely. And it goes on to say that like the video shows Penny choking him out for 2 minutes and 55 seconds. So to give folks that don't understand how this works an idea, if the type of choke that he had on him, I believe, was the rear naked choke, which blocks off the carotid arteries that run parallel to your esophagus, your throat. If you cut off blood flow to those, which the rear naked choke does very well, cuts off blood flow to both carotid arteries, which sends blood to and from your or to your brain. You have about 8 to 12 seconds of consciousness left, and then you pass out and you go unconscious. You're out. Some people, if they know how to defend against it, they can last a little bit longer. But if somebody really has that chokehold in deep, um, you're going out. There's no way around it. You are going to be choked out. So I would say we'll give Mr. Neely the benefit of the doubt and say 12 seconds, right? 15 seconds. So we're talking 2 minutes and 40 seconds longer than necessary. His body would have been completely limp.
Mm-hmm. That's what I
Um,
was gonna say. I was gonna say that. God damn.
there's no blood flow to the brain at all.
No
Uh,
resistance from this guy at that point.
yeah. Um, no blood flow to the brain. Out for unconscious, likely for about 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and this the choke. If you watch UFC, when somebody gets choked out, if they don't tap and they actually go out, the referee immediately calls the fight because the person is unconscious and cannot defend themselves. And so there's that. From what the BBC says, uh, the journalist who filmed it, Juan Alberto Vasquez, told the New York Times that Mr. Neely had shouted at passengers but did not attack anyone. He recalled Mr. Neely saying, "I don't mind going to jail and getting life in prison," before he was restrained. Um, that would have been restrained by Penny, the Marine.
So
So,
the guy's going through a mental issue in front of all these people, and again, this guy, Neil, the Marine, decides, hey, I'm gonna fucking save people. I'm gonna be the
so
hero here.
well, and I'm, I wasn't there, so we can't really speculate, right? But when we look at like the things that have been constantly happening in the U.S. With active shooters, and just this last weekend, actually, the weekend before this, or I'm sorry, like a week and a half before this even happened in Texas, there were like several fucking mass shootings or killings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was kind of a bad weekend for that in Texas, and so with the frequency with which these things are happening, um, and being that the guy, is a young Marine, a former Marine, I guess. I can understand where he might be coming from. He's thinking before this escalates to a point where this guy does become violent with somebody else, I'm going to put a stop to it. So I can totally understand that. I can. What I can't understand is a hold for 2 minutes and 55 seconds. Now, I haven't seen the video and it doesn't say, but I don't know if he held that choke really tight. I don't know if Neely died from some pre-existing issue that was accelerated or amplified by the event. So I don't know that what the autopsy report says as far as cause of death, but I do know that 2 minutes and 55 seconds is a long goddamn time, and that's just not how that works. Regardless of how you feel about the whole George Floyd scenario, whether or not he was truly innocent or guilty, the knee on the neck for the amount of time that it was there. Well, the knee on the neck in general is not shouldn't have been a thing, but for the length of time is also not a thing. It just didn't. It is. I don't know. It wasn't. It shouldn't have been a thing.
Yeah, there's no restraint in any book that says knee to the neck is okay. There's nothing. No police book I've ever read that says that's cool. No
Yeah.
training I've ever received.
Y- y- Yeah. In your 6 months at the LAPD Academy, did they ever have a section of knee to the neck?
No,
Or if you need to detain somebody, hold this choke for approximately 3 minutes.
even though they're limp,
Yeah.
probably piss themselves because you know that happens.
I remember one time we were in the barracks over in Germany, man, and fucking Mezenzef came up behind me, put a rear naked on me, and like he didn't even like choke hard, right? He just got it on me and then squoze for a little bit and then released. And I turned to like, what the fuck? And I passed out.
Hmm.
He didn't even have that choke on me for 4 or 5 seconds. And he barely squeezed out. I
Yep.
went "Woo," and came right back up, man. And it was the wildest thing. Um, it doesn't take long. It does not take long to subdue somebody with that particular choke.
Yeah.
So,
I've been choked out before. It's not a cool feeling for
yeah.
training. For training purposes, to make sure you know how it feels, you have to go ahead and cinch it in. And your partner who you're working with, they clap when they're feeling the effects. And once I tried to go a little hard. It was dumb. But the person I was working with felt my body go limp and he let go. I came to, but it's not like I was gonna get up and start fighting him again. Like I had to get my bearing back before I could figure out, what the fuck just happened. There was a bunch of people there could have helped restrain this person, but no, hold him by the neck until he
Well,
died.
and that's a good point that you made there too. So, um, when I've been choked out, there is no immediate recovery. Like there's no like, okay, the choke is off of me now, back to fighting. There's an amount of time where you feel like you are surfing the universe and then you're getting drawn back out of that black hole and back into reality. And like when you like close your eyes and you dig your fingers into your eyes and you see all those little colors and shit,
Mm,
all of that stuff. And it to you, it feels like a while, right? So you're not coming out of that like immediately, like no matter, I don't care about your adrenaline, like it's not a thing. If somebody's got a good choke on you and you go unconscious, like it's a process. You can look up videos on YouTube of people getting choked out. It takes a second for them to come back. Matter of fact, there's a video I watched not too long ago of a big muscular dude in a gym. I think it was like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym, and he was challenging people, and they accepted the challenge. So one of their guys um took him on, choked him out. The dude goes unconscious because he doesn't tap. So he's laid out on the ground. They pick up his legs to send blood back to his brain, right? So they're shaking his legs to get the blood flow going to his trunk. And when the dude does come back to consciousness, he does pop up real quick, like because fight or flight. But he's on his feet, kind of stumbling, and has no idea where he is. He doesn't know what he's doing. He can't go re-engage because he's still getting his bearings. So it's a thing. Um,
yeah. If you
but
got training, you'd know that.
what sucks about this though is maybe Penny knew or saw something that nobody else there saw or that we're not hearing about. Maybe that was the thing. Um, but regardless of how this turns out, if he is acquitted, it's gonna be messy.
Troubles.
But spent 4 years in the Marines, rising to the rank of sergeant before honorably discharged in June of 2021. According to his lawyers, he is now enrolled as a full-time bachelor's college degree student studying architecture. So
Good on him.
yeah, it's just really, I don't know. Um, Mr. Neely apparently was a Michael Jackson impersonator who frequently performed in Times Square. And then his mother, Christy Neely, was murdered in 2007 by her boyfriend, who was sentenced to 30 years in prison. And so now Mr. Neely's dead. So it's just a really interesting scenario. It does say that Mr. Neely began experiencing mental health issues. He had demons. He went through tragedy at a very young age, Mr. Mills said, and then his mother was taken from him and her body was dumped in a suitcase on a highway. So
There's that.
I don't know, man. It's a shit situation, and it kind of begs the question. I think is, if you should find yourself in that situation, what do you do? Because on the one hand, you want to do good, right? You want to be the good Samaritan that kind of prevents this potential tragedy from unfolding. But at the same time, if you're wrong or you do something wrong, let's say you are illegally um, a legal gun carrying American, and some shit goes down, and you pull your pistol to go, do your thing to save the day, and you got the bad guy in your sights, and you squeeze that trigger, and you miss, but you hit an innocent person behind them, a bystander. It's just it's a what do you do, kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. Um, but I think the one thing, regardless of whether or not he was right in subduing this person, what's going to screw him, and why they're going for the charge that they're going for. I don't know if we said, um,
Manslaughter instead of murder two. It should have been.
yes, second degree manslaughter, faces up to 15 years in jail. What's going to screw him is the 2 minutes and 55 seconds.
Mhm.
It's a long time, man.
Yeah,
You can have a whole ass conversation in 2 minutes 55 seconds.
we can have several different conversations in that much time. But
Yeah,
hey, it is what it is. This is where we are, where people feel like they have to take action. We are always in the middle of something, man. There's always some kind of shooting going on in public. I saw the pictures from the last shooting. It was horrible, and I think other people should see that shit, so maybe some people would really start to make some changes, because it was a terrible thing to see. um Combat in public in America on the street is fucking terrible. It's not something that you guys should see. We saw that shit. We raised our hand for it. Maybe the Marine thought, it was something that he had to do to prevent something from happening. Maybe he blacked out himself and was lost in the thought of defending these people. But at some point, like you say, you have to let go. And it ain't your job, man. He How often are you in a public setting? If you were in New York on a fucking subway, you're gonna see people fucking playing instruments for money. If that motherfucker pisses me off, should I go choke him out? He's annoying me. It's the same thing, isn't it? If the person on the fucking subway starts breakdancing and I don't like that shit, and everyone else is like, oh fuck, I wish he'd stop. Oh, I'm gonna go fucking choke this guy out now. Put him in the fucking chokehold until, you know, I feel like I handle this situation and now it's good. Motherfucker, let the police handle that kind of shit if you think the police should handle it. And if not, just mind your fucking business. Yeah, he's having a mental issue. He didn't fucking touch anybody. He didn't fucking literally cause anybody harm. He annoyed them. Annoying is not a reason to fucking put somebody down. And that's how I'm always going to feel about that. Fuck this guy. Fuck everything that he's going through. He could have fucking done better. He didn't have to kill that dude. Other people on that train could have helped out. Cause hey man, how many people fucking know MMA, no fucking grappling, no like, hey, why is he still holding this fucking guy? We even passed a couple stops on the train now, and he's still holding him. Other people watch that shit because they were annoyed. Bullshit. We're better people in America than that. And that's just the fucking where we're living right now. Where I actually said that we should show pictures of dead people on social media to people so they can make some changes, because nothing else is working. That's where we are now. That's what I'm thinking is an okay thing, and it's not. It's fucked up. It's terrible. But that's America. It's fucking a fucked up two-party system that should be a lot more parties, in a place that named their fucking army bases after Confederate leaders. We're just in a weird spot right now. We can do better though. It's not all lost, I don't think. Yeah, that's my rant. That was a long one. I don't really get into those that much, but hey,
Yeah, but when you do, you do.
Yeah. Then they're all over the place. But hey, this was a good show. I don't want to go too much longer.
Well,
We're at,
let's not end
unless
on
you
a
got
bad
something.
note though.
What do you got?
Um,
Some hot.
so I know some time ago, March or something like that, we talked about some upcoming um things for the show. And so Tyree and I have been working on multiple things. We do have a website. It is in operation, but it is not we haven't advertised. It's not. It is launched, but it's not like advertised. I guess if you were tech savvy, you could probably find it, but um we do have some ideas for it. We are opening an online store. Um and I say that with a little bit of hesitancy because I just it's weird to me that that's a thing, but it is. Um, and so we will have things in that store that um you would be able to purchase with dollars. Um, so that's a cool thing that I think we're excited about.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
and uh and so all the things that you're gonna find in the store are things that that are specific to the show in some way, shape, or form. And that we've worked on. Tyree and I have been back and forth on different types of designs, different types of things to put in the store. I think we're going to keep it kind of small for the time being, and then grow as needed. Unfortunately, the store will have to use a drop shipper, which, if you're not familiar with that, is you someone orders the thing gets sent to the product maker, they make it and they mail it to you, and we hope to eventually get away from that, so we have some stuff working there. I have been speaking to some people about some local people about that. So that would require us carrying our own inventory. We are before I forget, is officially an LLC. That's been put out, but like it's a legit thing. um So this is a fully functioning, uh, well, it's a semi-functioning. It functions,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Uh,
like it's a shell that we're filling right now. It's a bucket that we're filling with all of our goodness.
yeah,
You're gonna
exactly.
see some really cool shit, man. I'm really, really pumped about this. Initially I didn't really give a shit about selling stuff. I think Kevin was kind of in the same boat a little bit, but I mean, we have some cool ideas. Um, if you like it, cool. If you don't, all right, that's cool too. But you can represent the show and let other people hear about these cool shows we do about mental health and the cool people that we talk to, and we can try to grow this thing because it's growing faster than I thought it would, but it's growing, and we figure the best thing we can do is continue to make it grow, man. Why stop now? Um, we have ideas out the fucking anus for, for this show, or not for the show, but the website, which is www.beforeiforgetthepodcast.com. Yeah, it's long, I know. But hey, that's what it is, man. And I'm fucking so fucking happy that you guys can walk around wearing a shirt with before I forget on it,
Mhm.
or wherever else we come up with.
Yeah, there is still one or two designs that I'm working on to put on there. Part of the reason I think that Tyree and I, because like you said, like we weren't necessarily looking to make money off of the show, and I think that was um stated multiple times in the early days. But what we have discovered is, one, this shit ain't free.
Hmm.
Um, it does cost money for us to do this, and that does come out of has come out of our own pocket. Tyree has set up a GoFundMe. We've had people donate, and we were super grateful for that.
Very much.
Um, and we are using that to help generate more things. But the reason we want to do this, the reason we want to sell things, the reason we want the show to grow is the the larger you are as on a platform, the more people you can reach. And we want to help in some way, shape, or form, right? Like we want to tell your stories, the stories of other veterans. We want you to hear how someone served and then got out, struggled, but found a way to be successful. We want to share those stories to show that it's possible, that it's, you just got to put in a little work, be a little creative, use those skills that the military gave you and get to work, man. It gets and the more people we can reach, the better. But for us to do that, we have to generate some type of income for the show. And that's the thing, like whatever money the show makes doesn't go to Tyree and I. Like I have a job, Tyree has a job, that pays my bills, right? Like the money that the show generates goes back into the show. It will create more things and allow us to boost posts and bring more awareness and do all the things that we want to do with the show. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, whether you want to believe it's 22 or 44, um, we want to reduce that number to zero, and we want to show veterans that we're a community even after we serve. Um, for those that don't know, I work for the VA, and I'm around veterans of various generations, all the generations, the past generations. And you might think, what do you have in common with the guy who served in Korea? Absolutely nothing, except that we served, and we can tell fun stories about our time in service and laugh about them. That it's an actual conversation I had with somebody. And that's the thing. Like that's what it's about, right? The community of veterans. We want to make that community stronger, healthier, better. And for us to do that, we have to generate money so that we can put it back into the show so that we can continue to do this process and make it as big as it needs to be or wants to be or as big as it gets. Um, I don't think I don't me personally, and I think Tyree's with me. This is not a we don't I don't think we think of this as like this is our get rich plan, right? Because we're that's not what it's not what it's about.
Not even a little bit.
We're not.
If y'all could see the way the money comes in here,
Yeah.
you would you would probably tell us to quit.
Well, and it's not even that. It's like it's not like we're sponsored. It's not like we're getting fucking, these ads that you see on the show. Like they do generate income, but like,
Pennies.
yeah.
I could
You know,
do a whole show about my anger about that. Like we were putting in fucking work here and they're putting all these advertisements in our stuff and we get pennies on the advertisement. That's nothing. Like give me a
yeah.
break. You can do better. Streaming services can do better paying their artists.
I mean, that's that. I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
Um, it's a whole thing, but we're not Joe Rogan. We're not the Hodge twins. We're not fucking whoever the shit, fucking whatever other podcasts that are out there. But
Yeah.
anyway, we say all that to say, go to the website if you want to, buy some shit if you want to, support the show if you want to. We greatly appreciate it, and we greatly appreciate you being viewers and listeners and watchers and reviewers, commenters, interactors. Um, and if you know if the title fits, even fans of the show, I don't know if that's a thing or not, but uh, yeah. So that's big news. Oh, and we have some pretty rad guests coming up. We've got, let me think here. We have a retired command sergeant major coming up. We have, now I'm going to say this, and I hope it doesn't jinx us, but on the show very soon, we will have,
Wait, are you about to drop the shit on them?
yeah,
You you about
I'm
to
not going to
drop
say that, I'm not going to say the name
mm,
just yet, because again, I want to completely jinx this, but we're about to have a Medal of Honor recipient on the show.
Raka.
Yeah. Um, when I spoke with him and he agreed, I was floored. I was like, the kid, shut your entire face. Because absolutely why? They're in blown away. There's 3,530 medals of honor awarded, and we get to speak with one of them. It's
Yeah.
it's rad to me.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it for him. Yeah. Yeah. We're
You
gonna
get
use the button.
the laugh track.
Yeah. Hell yeah. We did it.
I'm glad that it doesn't come through on my end. I can't hear it.
Good.
Mm. I also want to say that me wearing the shirt is by no means an endorsement of the new Turtles movie because it looks like fucking garbage.
Oh, that's mean. I'm wearing a shirt because I know.
You stupid. Who is that?
It's fucking Han Solo, baby.
Oh,
He
it's
knows.
really little.
Yeah, yeah. I got the cheap one. Hey everybody. Thank you for listening to what do you got?
Hmm. I was gonna say your shirt reminded me of you know who the worm is?
Dennis Rodman?
Dennis motherfucking Rodman. He has an online store, Rodman Apparel,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just pictures of his head on shirts, and it's the best thing. I actually used to have one when I was in fucking ninth grade, a black shirt with Dennis Rodman with fucking red, orange, and yellow hair.
Hell yeah.
Dude, I
That's
wore
shit.
the shit out of that fucking shirt, man. Love
Read.
that dude.
All right. So, hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to Before I Forget. Please like, listen, share, subscribe, and watch. Please share. Check out our shop when you get a chance. After you listen to the show, go to www.beforeIforgetthepodcast.com and look at our shit. You got anything, Kevin?
Yeah, look at it, but like, don't be mean about it. Because I'm still very shy about it.
Yeah.
But thank you for listening. If you made it to this point, I know the show probably was a little dry, especially in comparison to previous shows and future shows. Hang in there with us. Um, and that's it. Salam.